Well, thank you. I'd like to thank Rhonda for inviting me, and Jamie and Zach and all of you who are working at Smart Cities, because I believe that it is such important work. As was mentioned, I am on a tight schedule, to be exact, the 4 o'clock Acela back home to my district in Philadelphia for events in my district. So unfortunately, I won't have an opportunity to stay, and we'll have to run out. But just a few thoughts that I will share with you. The first is we in Congress need to expand the conversation when the topic of infrastructure comes up. This is timely given President Trump's proposal this past week, but infrastructure has been a hot topic really for the last couple years or so, especially since we at least seem to be heading in a direction of widespread agreement between the two parties. When we talk about infrastructure, it's commonly thought of as roads, bridges, rail, sometimes also thought of as our water and sewer systems and our electrical grids. All of that is true, and certainly coming from an older state like Pennsylvania, an older city like Philadelphia, I'm especially attuned to those needs. However, as we prepare for the 21st century, now that we're about a fifth of the way through it, actually, we have to ensure that infrastructure is broad enough to include IT systems, is broad enough to include all of these technologies that are already making such a difference in cities. As we move forward to these technologies being able to better communicate with one another and improve our lives, we must recognize that is a vital part of infrastructure. In Congress, I lead something called the Blue Collar Caucus. The gist of this caucus, made up of 39 Democratic members, is to attempt to address those gaps in areas that have been left behind by the new economy, to draw that linkage between blue-collar labor and the new 21st century economy. As part of that, we end up talking a great deal about infrastructure because so many of those jobs in so many industries would be categorized as blue-collar. But I always make great pains in doing that to make sure that we are looking at infrastructure holistically. Now, I'll share with you that the city I represent, Philadelphia, the home of the Super Bowl champions, by the way. I do have to throw that in. Thank you. I want to thank the New England Patriots for doing something I never thought I would see in my lifetime, getting the rest of the country to root for Philadelphia Eagles. A true remarkable feat. But the city of Philadelphia is an interesting test case, and I say this not just because I'm born and raised and represent there, because here you have one of the largest, oldest cities in America that is attempting to adapt to the 21st century and has a young and growing population that is very much of the mind to live and work in the 21st century, and yet at the same time with a lot of the challenges and infrastructure of an older city. A city that has the University of Pennsylvania and CHOP and some of our leading thought centers, and yet same time a city that has a higher percentage of poverty than many of its peer cities among the top 25 cities in the country. So with this in mind, let me share with you a few of the things that Philadelphia is doing. The Water Department is deploying advanced metering infrastructure. The Office of Sustainability is working on an automated building management system. Philadelphia-based Comcast, just a small mom-and-pop company that we have in Philadelphia, Comcast is rolling out its smart city networking service, Machine Q. The Philadelphia Energy Authority is investing $1 billion in a 10-year effort to reduce poverty, create jobs, and fight climate change. There's also an exciting project called Philadelphia 2035, and a subset of that is calculating and designing ways in which existing technologies, especially around transportation, can talk to one another. So as we look forward to the next decade and next decades, I am one who will continue to be an advocate in Congress to make sure that we address our true infrastructure needs in the broadest sense possible, to make sure that we don't allow a false choice between roads, bridges, and rail, and making sure that these systems that can make such a difference and solve really massive societal problems that we see everywhere. I'm going to make sure, and I'm fighting to make sure, that as we address our infrastructure needs, we look at infrastructure of the 21st century and not the 19th century. Thank you very much.